Today, finally, Kiwis get some deposit protection. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Well, this post covering finance and property news. New Zealand has been an anomaly for some time in that it had introduced the clearest deposit bail-in scheme in the world via the Open Banking Resolution, or OBR, which, in the case of a bank failure, allows a portion of depositors' funds to be temporarily frozen and used to recapitalize the bank. While the bank reopens the next day, OBR is primarily a stability tool that helps buy time to identify a long-term solution. Actually, in practice, OBR is consistent with a range of long-term solution tools such as sale to a new owner, repurchase by a parent group, or even liquidation. The Minister of Finance, by the way, decides whether a failed bank enters into statutory management on the recommendation of the Reserve Bank, and the Minister will also decide whether OBR was the most appropriate option. But there has been no deposit protection for individuals or businesses, making New Zealand a weird outlier until now. Australia has had a $250,000 deposit protection scheme for many years after it was introduced during the GFC, initially at $1 million, but later taken down to that smaller level. However, now from 1 July 2025, Kiwis get the Depositor Compensation Scheme, the DCS, which protects depositors up to $100,000 if your deposit taker fails. Coverage is automatic if your money is in a DCS-protected account, and DCS payments, by the way, may include accrued interest too. The scheme does not cover investments like KiwiSaver, bonds, shares, and similar products. And note also that the scheme does not protect losses through frauds or scams. The Depositor Compensation Scheme covers each depositor up to $100,000 per deposit taker in the event of a failure when money is held in those DCS-protected accounts. Deposit takers are banks and non-bank deposit takers, including credit unions, building societies, and finance companies that take retail deposits. Kerry Beaumont, the Director of Enforcement and Resolution at the Reserve Bank, said while deposit taker failures are rare, the DCS gives depositors extra peace of mind that their standard banking products are protected. This type of protection already exists in many other countries and contributes to the stability of New Zealand's financial system. The scheme is designed to give New Zealanders greater peace of mind, guaranteeing that individuals, businesses, and trusts may be able to recover their deposits in the unlikely event of a bank or licensed deposit taker collapse, said Finance Minister Nicola Willis. Just to be clear, the DCS is a government scheme that is funded by deposit takers and administered by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Actually, there's a list of deposit takers who offer deposits covered by the DCS, but note, not all deposits offered by those deposit takers may be eligible for DCS protection, so it's worth checking. That said, your money is automatically protected if it is in a DCS protected account, such as a transaction account, a savings account, or a notice account and term deposit account. The Reserve Bank presented a range of examples to illustrate how the scheme might work, and it's worth just going through them. If you just had one account, meet Candice, who was a busy solo mum in this scenario. She has $2,500 in a transaction account with Bank A. She has no other accounts with Bank A or any other deposit takers. So, in the event of a failure, Candice would be compensated $2,500 if Bank A were to fail. Now, if you had more than one account with the same deposit taker, meet Tui, with $3,000 aside in a term deposit at Bank B and $500 in a transaction account at Bank B2. In the event of a failure, Tui would be compensated $3,500 if Bank B were to fail. Calculations are that you get the $3,000 plus the $500, totaling $3,500, and possibly interest as well. Now, if you hold your money with more than one deposit taker, like Jean, who's retired, she has $110,000 in the term deposit at Bank E, and she has $5,000 in a transaction account at Credit Union D. Now, the DCS works per depositor, per deposit taker, so Jean is covered up to $100,000 in both deposit takers that she holds money with. And Jean is covered for $100,000 at Bank E, but not the extra $10,000 that she holds at Bank E, but she's also covered for the $5,000 at Credit Union D. Now, if you're a sole trader, like Rawi, a builder, who's a small business owner, not incorporated as a company, he keeps $10,000 in a business transaction account at Credit Union C, and he also has $5,000 in a personal savings account at Credit Union C. Rawi will be compensated $15,000 if Credit Union C were to fail, with $10,000 plus $5,000 from the two accounts, totaling the $15,000. And if you had a joint account like Reshi and Aidan, who had been saving for their retirement and looking forward to be able to spend more time with their grandkids, they have $20,000 in a joint savings account with Building Society B. But Reshi also has $550 in a transaction account with Building Society B, and Aidan has $8,000 in a savings account with that same building society. So, in the event of a failure, Rashmi would be compensated $10,550 if the Building Society B were to fail, based on $550 plus half of the $20,000. And Aidan would be compensated $18,000 if Building Society B were to fail, based on the $8,000 plus half of the $20,000. And it's worth looking at this scenario where Mia and Kev have $140,000 in a joint term deposit with Building Society F. Neither Mia nor Kev have any other accounts with Building Society F, and if Building Society F were to fail, Mia would be compensated $70,000, that's half of the $140,000, and Kev would also be compensated $70,000, again, half of the $140,000. Now, it's worth noting that if they had $300,000, though, the maximum for each would be compensation of $100,000 each, and the remaining would be possibly recovered from the bank later, or it might be lost. Remember that a deposit of the bank is effectively an unsecured loan, so you would become a creditor amongst the rest in the case of a failure. The bank also walks through some more complex scenarios, such as deposits held in a family trust, a limited liability company, or indeed somebody holding a mix of individual, joint, and trust accounts. So you should talk to your financial institution, or perhaps seek independent advice from a registered financial advisor in these more complicated scenarios. And note too that while most deposits will be covered by the scheme, there are some exceptions. So again, it might be worth checking with a deposit taker if you're unsure whether your money is protected by the DCS, but they should be declaring it on their website. Some banks offer cash and term pies, which invest only in debt in that bank. Those may be covered by the DCFs. So again, it's worth checking your depositor taker's website, or perhaps ask your deposit taker to confirm the situation. All deposit takers are required to have a list of protected deposits on their website. And by the way, children's accounts are protected in the same way as other eligible depositors, with the $100,000 cover age limit applying across any DCS-protected accounts held in their name. But if your child's account are not set up in their own name, for the purposes of calculating compensation, they'll be treated as a single depositor with whoever's name the account is in. But note specifically that money held in bonds and other tradable products, KiwiSaver, and other superannuation schemes that are managed investment schemes, also foreign currency accounts, they're not covered at all. And by the way, some depositors will not be eligible for the DCS, and they include government agencies, state enterprises, for example, New Zealand Post or Transpower, as well as local authorities. It's worth noting Kiwi Bank, of course, is covered under the DCS scheme as a deposit issuer. Money held on behalf of others, like money held by lawyers, accountants, or real estate agents on behalf of client compensation entitlements is calculated at the level of the underlying client. So the provider of a relevant arrangement is not entitled to compensation. So, all up, this is good news, but people in New Zealand will need to be aware of the $100,000 limit and consider spreading risks across different DCS providers to ensure full protection. And it's worth highlighting that the Reserve Bank says local banks are well capitalised and the banking system is therefore robust. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? And it's probably true, by the way. But Kiwis can sleep a little easier tonight if they are the lucky ones with money in the bank. Many, of course, have little or none, but that is a whole other story. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.